And then he goes on to say, عَلِمَ اللَّهُ أَنَّكُمْ كُنْتُمْ تَخْتَانُونَ أَنفُسَكُمْ فَتَابَ عَلَيْكُمْ. You see, we were supposed to stay away from them while fasting in the night time, the previous law. But some of us didn't do that. Some of us secretly used to go to them. So Allah says, I know what you used to do. And I have turned towards you mercifully and forgiven you. Now there's a new law. فَالْآنِ, and so now, بَاشِرُهُنَّ. Now embrace them, your wives, in the nights of fasting. And when you embrace them, what do? وَابْتَغُوا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. And now seek for what Allah has written for you. So Allah does the writing. That's what He says. Allah determines how many children you have. Terengganu knows that very well. Allah determines how many will be male and how many will be female. But along comes Dajjal with his new godless age, and he says, nope, that's irresponsible conduct to believe that Allah should do the right thing. Oh, no. In this modern age of Dajjal, we take over and we will do the right thing ourselves. We'll decide how many children we'll have. It's called Planned Parenthood. And we'll decide how to space them off. And we'll decide how many will be male and how many female. Normally, one male, one boy and one girl, the American Sunnah. Now if that is all that Allah gave you, and you want more children, but that's all that Allah gave you, that's not the American Sunnah. That's what Allah gave you. But if you have a pre-decision, I want a boy and a girl, and you sit down with your wife and you all plan and decide, okay, the boy first, and then 7 years later the girl, and then close the shop. You're committing shirk. You're committing shirk. And the amazing thing is you'll be committing shirk without even knowing it. Without even knowing it. But Dajjal's attack is more profound than that. What he does is to, the hadith is that Dajjal sees with one eye, the left eye. He's blind in the right eye. It looks like a bulging grape. But your Lord is not one-eyed. Between his eyes, on his forehead, is written the word kafir. Why are you afraid to say it? Between his eyes, on his forehead, is written the word kafir. And every mu'min will be able to read it, whether the mu'min is katib or ghayru katib, literate or illiterate, still be able to read it. Our understanding, and Allah knows best, is that the left eye symbolizes external sight, and that the blind right eye symbolizes internal blindness. And so from this emerges what we call an epistemology. The philosophy of knowledge, epistemology. That knowledge comes only from external observation, the scientific method. And knowledge does not come from internal insight. From the time you declare that knowledge comes only from external observation, then the path becomes predetermined for you. If the only thing that you can know is that which you can observe, this is the only world you can observe, hence this is the only world that you can know, then one day you will be led to conclude, this is the only world that exists. Let me repeat that. If the only thing that you can know is that which you can observe, and this is the only world that you can observe, It follows that this is the only world that you can know. And when you accept that this is the only world that you can know, one day you'll be led to conclude that this is the only world that exists. For all intents and purposes, practical reality, most of mankind now accept that this is the only world that exists. If this is the only world that exists, then there is no reality beyond material reality. Welcome to Dajjal. So that woman there, that's all she is. She's a woman. She is flesh, and she is blood, and she is bones. She's a thing to be enjoyed. And there's nothing in her beyond her material being. And when woman is approached in that context, then love eventually gives way to lust. When woman is approached with that conception of reality, it's only a matter of time before love will give way to lust. And that is the destruction of happiness in marriage. And that's where we are today. At no time in history have there been more divorces than there are today. That is progress. That's progress. Divorces are becoming so common now that tomorrow marriage is for the birds. Nobody's going to bother about marriage. You use her and you enjoy her until she becomes like the old withered branch of a date palm, and then you look for another schoolgirl. Is that the azan? You look for another young woman and discard the old woman. When there's love in the heart, she's never old. When there's love in your heart, she'll always be young in your eyes. When there's love in the heart, you'll never discard her. When there's love in the heart, you long, I want you not only in this world, I want you in the next world as well. But when there's lust, come bring me the next one. And make sure she's young. And then bring me another one. And make sure she's young. And so you have the substance of a sexual revolution. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, the time will come when people will have sexual intercourse in public like donkeys. And that's where we're heading. Is that progress? Is there any government in the world which could prevent the movement in that direction? Show me one. I don't know anyone. What we are witnessing, therefore, because of Dajjal's attack, what we're witnessing before our very eyes is a program put in place for the eventual collapse of society. So people performing sexual intercourse in public like donkeys, that's the collapse of society. I got an email from an African student in Paris 2 or 3 mornings ago. He said, Sheikh, he's a university student, he said, Sheikh, all I have to do is to go to my dormitory window and look outside, and I can see them having sexual intercourse in public. They probably come to the front porch of the apartment, they remove the blinds and so on. So if you're in the next building, you can watch them and see them. They do it in parks in Britain. And they turn on the lights in the motor car, and they're doing it in the car, and people passing by and watching. And one friend of mine here in KL told me he was walking on a street in Tokyo and he saw them in public. In Tokyo. This is the modern age of Dajjal. And it's time for us to recognize that Dajjal now controls the modern age. It is time for us to recognize that we live in that age of the greatest test and trial that mankind will ever experience. And that unless and until we remain faithful to Allah and follow His Messenger, we will be worshipping Dajjal. I think that